every time my baby cried, when I tried to soothe and it was unsuccessful, I will cry too.
The first few months for any new mum would be really difficult because you're completely in the dark.
I've got some few mothers who come in, really in tears and say, oh no, where's my old life?
In today's episode, we are focusing on baby language. We're going to talk about your baby's common action. What do they actually mean? Common causes of your baby's discomfort, Dunstan Baby Language, purple, crying, and witching hour. What's with all these terms? And when should you see a pediatrician? I'm your host today, Shilin.
Hi, and I'm your co-host, Lynn. Welcome to TAW Real Chats. With us today are Dr. Vidya, a pediatrician and a neonatologist with more than 19 years of experience in the field. And we have Sabrina Hassim. She's a private college lecturer and a full-time mum with no external help to 2 boys. And I'm Lynn. I'm a mummy to a 10-month-old boy called Jiren. And we are so happy to be here today.
Pigeon just launched its loyalty membership club called Pigeon Sayangku Club. Sign up today to enjoy discounts and benefits while shopping on Pigeon eShop. Membership to Pigeon Sayangku Club is free. So download it today on the Apple App Store and Google Play Store. There's so much said about mommy talking to babies when you are pregnant. Does baby language actually start when you are having the baby inside? Could you tell us more about that, Dr. Vidya?
Yeah, so it's very, very true. So when babies are when mummies are talking to babies, when daddies are talking, I even have older children talking to little babies. When they come out, you can see the difference. When those mom and dad or even the older child talks to the younger one, the newborn baby, they do recognize that voice. They sort of immediately quiet down and then look at you. I've seen it so many times. So it's so true that they hear you when they are in there and respond to you as soon as they hear you for the first time. So
I got goosebumps.
Yeah, it's true. It's so true.
So Sabrina, did you talk to your baby?
Yes, definitely. I think the bonding process starts even when they're in your womb. When I had my second one, I encouraged even the first one to start talking to the baby, so that when he comes out, he knows that, okay, this is my elder brother. So whenever I hear him, I should be happy or I'm calm. You know, the bonding actually starts very early on. It's something that we need to nurture from the very beginning.
So Dr. Vidya, could you tell us what are the most common baby actions?
So there are a lot of primitive reflexes that the babies do. This is natural. It is involuntary. That means it's something that is beyond the control of the baby. The rooting and the sucking reflex is the basic because that's food, right? Baby needs to feed. To begin with, they will sort of move their heads to one side, searching as if for something to latch on to feed. So that is an early sign. If the parents sort of don't pick up that sign, then babies go on to start crying a lot. Small things like this can freak out a new set of parents. A few other things that a lot of mummies and daddies will be noticing is that if they put their finger on the baby's palm, they immediately grasp. So all these are very early signs. The first month of life, babies' fingers will tightly grasp around their fingers or anything that's given to them. Or you might find that they are sort of kicking their legs a little. And if you sort of let them go on and you're not attending to them or picking up the cues that the baby is giving us, they might start crying. And then you're lost for words and you're not too sure what it is that the baby wants. Besides that, I think if you hold up a baby, they will sort of lift their legs up when they come in contact with the couch. We have something called a Moro's reflex, which you sort of drop a baby a little, they will sort of put their hands out and bring it back together, which tells you the neurological maturity of the baby. So these are things that you might see your pediatrician assessing in the clinic, but these are all primitive reflexes which gradually disappear as the child gets older.
Personally, I found it really, really important to understand my baby cues.
Yes.
It's such a beneficial thing as a parent because, you're bringing up a baby and their only tool of communication is these actions and crying and stuff. So if you really understand it, you'll be able to tend to their needs a lot more responsibly. Personally, a lifesaver for me was recognizing my son's tired cues, rubbing eyes and unfocused attention and sort of yawning and stuff like that.
That's right.
And once you know when they're tired, you know when to put them to sleep. And that is a great thing because every mum knows that putting an overtired child to sleep is a nightmare.
Exactly.
So, do you have any other tips for new mums, Dr. Vidya?
Yeah, so I think what is really important, which I see in my practice parents missing a bit, is the cue when the baby is getting hungry. So a lot of parents will tell me that the child suddenly just bawls the head off. It's a riot at home and they are rushing to either get the milk ready for the baby and baby's bawling his head off. So I think we can avert that whole scenario if we pick up the early cues. So babies actually give you the clue quite early on that they are beginning to want to feed. I think parents need to be a little bit more clued on. They would need to note when they start stirring. So it's not really that babies will need only feeds every 3 hours, so the next feed is exactly 3 hours later. So that's a bit wrong. So babies will start giving you clues that I'm getting a little hungry and I probably want to feed in a while. So they start with stirring. Like I was saying earlier, they might start sort of moving their heads towards, one particular side and trying to open the mouth. Yeah. So that's a very early sign. They have not begun to cry. They're not, very irritated or very angry and hungry. So they're just beginning to tell you, I'm now ready, time to get mommy to get ready to feed me. So if you miss this early sign where they are trying to open the mouth, bringing their tongue out, you'll find them sort of suckling a little. They actually do this very early on. And unfortunately, I find a lot of parents sort of miss that clue. And then they go on to move a bit more, a little bit more stirring around, a little bit of movement. And if we miss this, then it becomes a full-blown cry and it's all chaotic at the end.
I can see my sister-in-law and my brother, they tend to do that sometimes when the baby is already like crying for help, like, oh! And then
Exactly.
they were like, faster, have to warm the milk. Yeah, they're always like panicking about that.
Yeah, they don't even feed properly because they're so upset.
Yeah.
I'm busy crying.
We actually got a video submitted by Baobei. She's a member of our TAW community group.
Hello, Dr. Vidya and the Asian woman. So this is my baby Max. He's 3 months old. I want to ask why sometimes, actually a lot of times, even though he's not hungry or not wanting anything, he loves to eat his fists, his hands.
Yeah.
So Dr. Vidya, do you have anything to add about sucking his finger all the time?
Yeah. So that actually is a very good question. And it's something that happens a lot. Sucking, like I was saying, it's a primitive reflex, but it goes on actually beyond because it's a way of babies telling you that they either want to feed, but if in this case, baby's already fed and mom's quite sure baby's had enough. So the suckling can also mean soothing. Okay, which is a good thing. He can calm himself down. So it's not always that they want a feed that they're putting things in the mouth. It could be a way that they keep sort of calming themselves. Yeah, so it's just like how we put in a pacifier. So we're not really opposed to actually using a pacifier to pacify a baby. Some parents are averse to the idea, which is fine. Babies can always use their own little hand to sort of suckle on and just calm down. And it's a good thing to do. So you don't need to be really worried. If baby is calm, baby's just happily suckling on his fingers. He's comfortable. He's very at peace with everything around him. I don't think we need to worry too much. But if he's agitated and he's sucking furiously on his hand and, getting agitated, the fact might be that he's quite hungry. All right. But in this case, if little Max is quite happily sitting and just sucking, it's good. It's just calming himself down. He's in a good place.
Sabrina, do you have any, what was your experience like with your 2 boys?
For my first one, he didn't suck on his finger. He doesn't have that habit, but I experienced it with my second one. So I was told that when baby suck on their finger is a way of them soothing themselves, keeping them calm when they're nervous or scared. So I actually enjoyed my second baby sucking on his finger because I believe the soothing part. And then after a few months, I realized that when he sucks on his finger, it's also because he's hungry. Because when I, visit the pediatrician, his weight was not he's not gaining any weight. So then I understand that sucking finger is also a sign that he's hungry. So after that, whenever he sucks on his finger, I will, immediately try to feed him, regardless whether he asks for it or not, just so that the weight is, gained gradually according to the graph. And because I am breastfeeding, so it's very easy.
That's good.
Personally, just recalling my first few months of motherhood, right? I think the first few months for any new mum would be really difficult because you're completely in the dark, right? And then there's this little fragile thing. and no one gave you a tutorial about how to take care of him. And the thing that was toughest for me was the crying. I'm sure all mums would know that when you're holding your baby and he's just crying and crying, your whole world collapses. And at that point in time, you're so emotional. There's a lot of hormones running through your body and stuff like that. What Jiren went through for the first 3 months was that at 7 p.m. every evening, he used to have this crying spell, right? And I was boggled because, I was reading up and he wasn't hungry, he wasn't tired. And, at that point, you're quite an anxious mom and you're wondering what's happening. So it was then that I, opened my good friend Google at that point and just, searched up, why is my baby crying at this time? And I started reading up a little bit about something called witching hour that usually happens to newborns from a specific time every day. And it's basically when your baby is crying for no reason at all. And, it's just incessant crying. And I think reading up a little bit about that kind of helped me understand and cope with it a little bit better. And I think today, since we have an expert on board, I would love to hear, Dr. Vidya, what your thoughts are or your experience is with witching hour or with this evening time crying.
So you're absolutely right, Lynn, there. I think commonly, maybe in the medical world, we would call it colic. But I suppose among parents, they would use words like witching hour or purple cry. It's a very, very common phenomenon, and it's perfectly normal. It's not, something that we need to be worried about, or is it something pathological where, you need to see a doctor because it's something serious. This typically happens a little bit later, not immediately when the baby is born. It is seen usually within the first 2 to 3 weeks of life. When baby is almost a month old, only then you would start seeing typically this crying bouts, usually in the evenings, usually after sunset. And it goes on for a couple of hours, actually can go on to quite late at night. I think in our Asian community, a lot of cultures might say, because it's at night and there's some spirits and things like that. But actually, it's not. It has nothing to do with, the other side. It's just that the babies have colic, and it's not that they've got something very seriously wrong. Of course, typically when babies are just crying incessantly and, you're really at the wit's end trying to soothe this baby who's so troubled, you could try feeding if they want to feed. So like I said, sucking itself is very, very soothing. So you could actually do extra feeds to help keep the baby calm. Or you could actually take baby out for a drive. I think very commonly, I know a lot of parents will just get into the car and dear daddy would be driving around the neighborhood. So which is very helpful because of that movement, that constant movement sort of calms the baby down. And also the engine, this is called white noise, constant background noise, like the noise of the engine or any other white noise that you might be able to use would help to calm the baby down as well. There's a way of actually holding baby that we recommend, putting baby's back against your chest and flexing baby's hip and knees. So you sort of hold baby up and sort of hold your hand on front of baby's chest, lean him against your chest and sort of flex his hip and knees and sort of lull him up and down. So you need to go up and down. So you bend your knees up and down. That vertical movement really sort of helps soothe and calm baby down as well.
I wish I knew this when I was
yeah, so that really helps as well. But of course, I can understand it's very, very disturbing when you have a child who's wailing. So it'll be good if you could have extra support from your partner. So if dad also could come in and take over baby for a while. But the good thing is they outgrow this period, right? It sort of peaks when baby is about 2 months to 3 months. And then subsequently, by the time they're about 4 months, 5 months old, they outgrow this period. So there is sort of a light at the end of the tunnel kind of a thing.
That's very reassuring to hear.
Yeah,
that was what kept me going as well.
Yeah. So, but of course, I must have a disclaimer. If baby is not well, That means not happening only during this period of time, but throughout the night, throughout the day, baby is crying. It could be something else. So let's not, label a baby crying as just a witching hour or a purple cry. We must make sure we're not missing something else, which is a little bit more worrying. So if this is going on, it's always a good idea to just check base with your pediatrician just to make sure that that isn't another reason for baby crying so much.
Definitely. Sabrina, you're a full-time mom. How did you cope with your baby's crying?
Oh, the first few days was really hard. Every time my baby cried, when I tried to soothe and it was unsuccessful, I will cry too. That is my honest opinion experience that I went through.
Yeah, and I think it's normal that you cry with your baby because you are really clueless and you don't know what to do. The baby is well fed, everything, but it's just crying.
Initially, last year, it was a bit chaotic at home, but thank God that's my second one. So I kind of know how to handle when they cry. Actually, just to share with you, Lynn, maybe you want to try it out. This was actually taught by my confinement lady. Usually when they burst out crying, right, if they're not hungry or if they don't need any soothing, put their head, especially their ears, against your chest so that they can hear your heartbeat, and you need to be calm. You cannot panic, When they can hear your heartbeat and you're calm, they will be calm. Okay, if that doesn't work, this is something that my confinement lady taught me. You can start massaging them, take off their rompers or whatever that they're wearing. Try to keep them calm. And then you can start massaging their back, their tummy, so that if they do have colic, and then it will help to soothe that feeling. So maybe it's also something you want to try. It actually helps with my two babies.
Definitely. Listening to mother's heartbeat, against mommy's chest is very reassuring because that's what they were used to when they were in the womb. So that's a great idea as well.
When I was a first-time mom, the nurses kept telling me that, you have to be calm so that your baby don't cry. And then I told my husband, how do I control my heartbeat? I cannot control my heartbeat.
It's easier said than done, right?
Yes, but during the second time, I kind of used to all the yelling and screaming. So I just keep calm throughout, no matter what happens.
Yeah, I just want to recap a little bit on what Dr. Vidya shared earlier about white noise. Those videos are available on YouTube and they have more than 10 million viewerships. So
on
imagine
Spotify
how many parents are searching for this white noise.
Sorry, can I add on? You just have to be careful that your decibels are not too strong. So you have to keep it below 50 decibels. So the white noise, don't play it too loudly. And there mustn't be too much of intonations. You must be careful when you're picking up the white noise. It shouldn't be going up and down. They can have these forest noises and by the beach, but no bird noises. You know what I mean? You mustn't have birds also being in the sound.
So mommy listening in, do you struggle with baby crying? If you have a way like what Sabrina shared earlier, tell us your tips. It will be very helpful to help the community out there.
Well, for me, actually, the thing about bringing up a baby was the crying, obviously, that really got to us, right? I remember when Jiren was just born, I was wondering, what is he telling me every time he cries? I don't know about you guys, but every cry would be different sometimes. So when he's hungry, it'll be a different type of cry. When he's tired, I would be, as usual, going on the internet and Googling baby crying like they're coughing, or baby crying ow, 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 with that, that kind of sound kind of thing. It's then that I actually found out that about something called the Dunstan Baby Language. I mean, I was quite amazed because, I thought it was just random sounds that they make, but every type of cry actually can tell you something about your baby. And, I found that completely mind-boggling. Shalene, would you like to elaborate about the Dunstan Baby Language?
So for that, I find it like, whoa, is this for real? It's actually a method by Priscilla Dunstan. She realized this and then she wanted to share with a lot of women, and many women actually find it very useful for them to identify what the baby is saying. So I'm just going to make the sound, and Dr. Vidya, if I did it wrong, just correct me as I go, okay? So we're going to break it down. Each sound has its own meaning and it's 5 sounds. And the first one is actually ne. Ne is when they are hungry. So they stick their tongue up and they want to eat something. And the next one will be eh. Eh is when they have colic in the upper wing. And what you can do is that to lift the baby up, to put them on your shoulder and give them a gentle shoulder pat. Wow, I can become a mother already. Okay, the third one is actually is when they have lower gas. So this is where we go to the Sabrina's method to actually, remove them from their clothes and then to give them a massage to have a good time together. And the next one will be ow. Ow is when they're tired. So baby tends to really just have fun and play with you. You have to tell from the cues that, actually they're tired. You have to help them rest and to put them to sleep. And the last one will be is when they are in discomfort. Maybe the environment is too cold or too hot, and check their diapers. Did I say it correctly, Dr. Vidya?
Yeah, so I actually looked up Dunstan as well, baby language. It's interesting. She's from Australia, I think. She's an opera singer.
Yes,
she sort of noticed that babies have got this special way across all cultures that they can sort of convey early in the stage before they sort of start crying. If we can pick up these early clues, you can sort of decipher what's the problem. So it's interesting. But I think a lot of anecdotal kind of stories from mothers who've actually applied this in their own homes, and they are very happy that they can pick up those clues. So I think it's not really very well researched. In medical line, we always have to do a huge study and prove that it's really correct. But it's very interesting. And if it helps young mummies and daddies pick up clues about what the baby needs, I think it's a great idea.
I think every baby is different as well, right, Dr. Vidya? I know that some of it didn't really apply to Jiren. I even went online and downloaded an app that actually listens to the baby and deciphers it to see if it was true. And it's a 50-50 sometimes. I think you need to use your instinct as well.
That's right. I think it's not just the sound that baby's making, it's also the movement that goes with it, So if they're searching, they would be moving, like I said, the head will be moving to one particular end. They will be making that sucking noise, and then maybe the neck sound as well if they want to feed. And then if in discomfort, you will see babies sort of moving their heads and frowning. So then we'll tell you that, there's something wrong. That's, they've got some tummy ease. The few things that turn babies a little bit upset would be that they've got a bit of wind or gassiness, or what we call belly bubbles. Or, they've soiled themselves, they need a change, or they just want to cuddle. Sometimes they just want to be picked up and cuddled. Or, of course, if they're really hungry and they want some more. So a few things that you need to check. So I think with experience, you will also get to guess what it is that your little one wants.
Speaking on discomfort, so let's talk about some typical baby health problems. So Sabrina, did your sons have any physical discomfort issues, like skin issues?
Yes. Because I have eczema. So I find that my eldest one has eczema as well. So it's not really something new for me, because I have that all my life. I know how to manage it. But when it happens to your little one, the feeling is different. We saw quite a few pediatricians. It wasn't really serious, but eczema can be very discomforting. So after a few years, I think we finally found something that really works. Like when you apply it for a few days, you can already see that the skin is moistened and it's less dry. Eczema is something that a lot of babies these days especially experience. My advice is not to panic. Definitely not to panic. It's always best to get your pediatrician to advise, rather than getting advice from your neighbors or your friends, because it could lead to something serious when it comes to medical issues.
Totally agree. We had to go to the pediatrician for Jiren's eczema, and we were actually asked to go to a dermatologist because it was quite bad. And so he had teething rash and quite bad eczema as well. Like you said, I think the thing that worked was to moisturize, right? To just be diligent about moisturizing. And I have a tip to share for mums, because, if you're breastfeeding sometimes and you're using a bottle, there's leftover breast milk, and to just dump it in their bath. And that actually helps to moisturize your skin as well. And that's a great kind of home remedy. Dr. Vidya, I would love to hear your thoughts about this.
Yeah, so eczema is actually very, very common. Generally, globally, as we go into westernization of our society, we are seeing more and more allergies in our society. One of the common ones in a newborn baby or in the first few months of life would be atopic dermatitis or eczema. right? It's a huge problem. Nearly, a large population of babies have this. So like Sabrina mentioned, number one is moisturizing, right? We need to constantly moisturize baby. So it's actually a 3-step treatment plan. All right. The first is the bathing solutions, the bath gels. We wouldn't recommend using any baby bath gels because even though it's meant for newborn babies, they still dry the skin up. So we would really recommend specialized bathing formulation for baby's skin so that it doesn't dehydrate the skin too much. And following which, we really recommend moisturizing. As soon as baby's done with the bath, we need to pat baby's skin with the towel, not sort of rub the skin, but to pat dry the skin and then immediately moisturize because when you apply the moisturizer, it will capture the moisture from the bath onto the skin, right? So it's always moisturize as often as you can. So just get something that really works, but need to apply frequently and a lot. You would have periods where you actually have flare-ups. So when there is a flare-up, when the skin is looking really angry and red and sometimes very wet, you would need to put medication on it. So that would be the third step. So when there are flare-ups, you'll see the area being very red and wet. You probably would need to see your pediatrician or dermatologist. Most pediatricians are very familiar with eczema and quite comfortable treating this condition, unless it's really very bad, like Lin, your little boy who had to go to see a dermatologist. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, it would be either a steroid-based cream or a non-steroidal cream, depending on the condition. And you'll need to use it until the skin is back to normal. And then you might be able to take that off. But the moisturizing and the bathing gel would be constant, right? So eczema, unfortunately, with wean, will go away and then it'll flare up and then it'll go away. And hopefully with time, they outgrow that.
You talk about frequently. Can you define like how many hours or how frequent?
So it depends actually on your environment. So if environment is a little bit dry and the baby's skin is getting dry often, so sometimes every few hours once, like some dermatologists would even recommend every 3-4 hours, just dab, depending on how dry the skin gets. Yeah, so the good idea would be just to feel baby skin. When it's well moisturized, it'll be very supple. Even if you run a small sort of a nail, run your finger around the baby skin, it will not leave that white mark. But supposing it's dry, then you'll see a little bit of a mark on baby skin. So then you know it's dried up already.
Yeah, good tip.
Yeah, so you feel the skin, it'll be very supple, nice and moist. Then you know you're okay. But when it dries up, just apply again.
With more than 90% natural ingredients, primarily olive oil, argan oil, and chamomile, Pigeon's neonatal botanical baby skincare range nourishes, restores, and renews baby's delicate and sensitive skin without irritation. As part of Pigeon's sustainability efforts, bottles are made from 20% recycled material. From Earth with Love, Pigeon's natural botanical baby skincare cares for your babies and the environment. Shop now at Pigeon eShop. We have got a promo code below just for you. So it seems to me that it's tough, just to guess from their body language, and you have to constantly touching their skin to make sure that, they are well moisturized. And I can see when just now Lynn mentioned about milk bath, breast milk. Yeah, and I can see like Dr. Vidya nodding and also like Sabrina nodding. So yeah, what are your thoughts on this? Have you guys tried this?
No, so okay, so no, please don't. I mean, if you've got so much of extra breast milk, it's okay to bathe your baby, I suppose. But I rather baby drink the breast milk.
only the
I was reminded of Cleopatra. I heard Cleopatra had a milk bath. That's why she was so beautiful.
Yeah. Rumors has it. What about you, Sabrina?
Oh, because I am an overproducer, so I have a lot of stock.
Wow.
I really don't mind bathing my baby with the milk, because otherwise it's just going to go into the drain, might as well just bathe my baby with it. It actually worked wonders. So it's actually a natural way to get things done.
So back to Dr. Vidya, you mentioned earlier from what Lynn shared about baby, having redness and all that. That's when you need to seek help. Yeah. Any other alarm signs that we should look out for?
Yeah, so very commonly, especially for first-time moms and dads, they're quite alarmed by the number of skin rashes that babies develop. We actually sort of picturize a nice, rosy, clear-skinned baby, and then suddenly you have eruptions on the face. So some parents really get freaked out. A lot of it is actually quite normal and quite common. A newborn baby will actually start having sometimes even pimples on baby's face. Yeah, it's called neonatal acne. And it's perfectly normal, and you don't really need to do anything. But of course, it looks a bit scary when there's a red watch on your face and then a little bit of a white dot on it, like a pimple, right? This is basically because of the hormonal changes that baby might have had from mommy's hormones that's still in baby's body. So that's very common. It's seen very early in life, and it usually just goes away. So we don't need to really apply anything. Sometimes they will have little dots on their nose. That's called milia. Again, that is very, very common, and there's really nothing that you need to do about it. But of course, if you're not too sure what it is and you're a little bit worried, it's always a good idea to just touch base with your local pediatrician, who will be happy to sort of allay your fears if it's something that it's nothing to worry about. Of course, there are lots of other rashes. You might have something else called erythema toxicum, which happens very early, like day 3, day 4 of life. And that goes away as well. So, these are little scary red spots that appear on babies, and a lot of parents sometimes get very worked up. But most of the time, it's all good. Sometimes you can have even milk rash around the mouth. Again, the mummy's milk, when it comes in contact with baby's skin, when they suckle, milk sort of gets smeared around the mouth area. That also causes some kind of dermatitis. Again, we don't worry too much about it, and things will sort of get better as baby's skin gets more matured.
I think what Dr. Vidya shared is very reassuring. Again, for new mothers, they might be watching this and like, actually, you are doing good. I am doing good. I hope we do that. That they should look out for the signs, like Dr. Vidya mentioned, when you should seek your local pediatrician's help. In the course of all this like baby's discomfort that we talk about, we have something relaxing for your baby. People who are watching, do comment below and share with us where's your go-to website to seek for baby-related information. And don't forget that we have a special promo code for you to pamper your baby.
Well, now we'll like to take a few questions now, actually, from a TAW follower, Denise Tan. Denise is from Singapore, and she has a question which I can completely relate to. Denise asks, when standing up to rock the baby to sleep, and baby does fall asleep, how the heck does baby sense when I sit down and wakes himself up?
Yes, I know. It is like very distressing when you've done all that rocking and, finally got baby to sleep, and then you just change position a little and then there they go.
Yeah, it's like they have a radar or something, All
right. So it actually depends on how old baby is. So I was talking a little bit earlier about Moro's reflex. So that sort of goes on for about until baby's 2-3 months old. So if you have not, if you've sort of not bundled baby's arms in and you're sort of rocking baby and you're sort of placing baby down or sitting down, that primitive reflex, even though baby's asleep, will come in and baby will sort of startle and wake up. So I think a trick would be to actually get baby's arms bundled up, not too tightly, but in a cozy fashion, where baby's arms are next to baby's body. So once you've successfully rocked baby to sleep, you could gently, while still swaddled, place baby down to sleep. Or when baby has just fallen asleep, so when they're still in that light sleep, they will wake up quite easily when there's a change in position. So you might need to sort of still rock for a while longer until baby really goes into a deeper sleep, and then sort of place baby down. But it would be good if the baby is still very young, like about only less than 3 to 4 months, to actually swaddle baby's arms in, so that when you actually place baby down, baby doesn't automatically have this reflex where they do Moro's, they sort of startle, and that wakes them up. That makes them wake up.
I think swaddling was a lifesaver for me. Yeah.
But how do we differentiate if they are in light sleep or deep sleep?
So light sleep sometimes feels as though they're not really asleep. They would be easily woken up. But the deep sleep is when no matter what you're doing, they're not waking up. So it depends.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I'm a bit confused here, but I can see other mothers like, yeah, Oh, okay. I think it takes a mother to differentiate that.
Yes.
Breathing is different.
So
as well.
Sabrina, with the whole work from home scene, like how do you juggle with that? Like you are sitting in front of your laptop, you're having class and your baby is crying. Do you carry your baby and what do you do?
Oh, lucky for me, I have a very supportive husband. I mean, we learned this to cooperate and, take over duties with our first one. So when our second one came along and then we had to go into working from home, it wasn't really hard for us because each of us already understood our duty. All parents need to understand that parenting is a two-person job. You have a father and you also have the mother, and you need both, to accommodate that one little bundle that you have. So when I am lecturing, I do experience sometimes when my baby start to knock on the door, screaming, "Mama, mama, mama." So sometimes I just have to ignore. I know that my husband is there to care for my children because my students are also my children. So they deserve an undivided attention. So it has been hard, but now I think the kids already got the rhythm and they understand when I need my time and when the father needs his time.
Yeah. Would you say that it's important to form a routine with your partner and also with your children so that they know this is the time that mommy will be busy at work, and if I need something, if I want something, I will have to go to daddy?
That would be ideal. But children, they don't really get routine. No matter how much you teach them about time, they don't just get it. They don't get it. So for me, we just go with the flow. For example, when I have classes, my lectures, then my husband will take over, and they know that whoever that's in the hall with them, whether it's the father or the mother, that's the person that they have to go to if they need to, pee or poo poo, or they need to eat or whatever it is that they need. I won't say it's a routine, but it's just something that they are used to.
What about you, Lynn? How do you think like the father's role in a household?
Well, I think fathers can help a great deal because, usually all the burden is on the mum, right? Straight away. They can educate themselves before the baby is here. They can take the initiative to do things that I think society kind of pictures the mum doing everything. The mum has to sleep the baby, feed the baby, soothe the baby, everything, the mum.
And still breastfeeding.
Yes. So, there are ways to actually delegate as well. Eventually, if you like to bottle feed, then the daddy can help out as well. Soothing is one way that, dads can actually help rock the baby to sleep and all that. It's good for the mum, I think, if you rotate because it doesn't put so much pressure on her as well. One thing that I would like to stress on is emotional support. So, I think dads can really, really just be there to support the mummy because it's going to be probably the most challenging time of her life. So they can do a lot.
There's not enough mention of emotional support. Like when we talk about mother's love, unconditional love, and then, the bonding and all that, I think what you see on social media normally talk about the good things. You rarely see a mother talk about, I'm half dead now, my babies are crying, I'm tired, I didn't get enough sleep for 4 days. So with that, I just think sometimes we tend to keep all these things to ourselves and not even saying it to our partner because partner is also working and all that. But I think the emotional support, when you have it, it keeps you going. I am imagining, like when you are really tired and someone is there, hey, we got this, we are in this together. Yeah, that will really help. Dr. Vidya, do you have anything to add?
So I've been a pediatrician for more than 20 years. And it's been a change that I've noticed of recent years, which is very, very positive. A long time ago, dads had a certain role to play and moms were generally the basic caregiver for the baby until baby was a certain age. But of recent years, I think past 10, 15 years, there has been a change. And I've seen more and more daddies get involved and it's become a norm right now. Yeah, it's a really kudos to the modern dads because they are so hands-on. They're totally hands-on with their newborn babies as young as a couple of days, they've got no qualms picking up a crying child, a newborn baby. Generally, I think those days, dads will shy away from a newborn baby until they are like a month or two before they dare even pick them up. But now I have daddies as picking up a baby who is just 2-3 days old, able to handle bottle feeds or burp the babies, put them to sleep. Really, it's an amazing change in how parenting is now seen.
Yes, and we are all about supportive husband. So with that, we actually have another question from our TAW community from Norina. This is directed to Dr. Vidya. Why sometimes my baby shakes her hands up and down with fast breathing? Is she excited about something, or, is that something that I should be worried about?
So that's an interesting question. So just the fact that baby is sort of moving baby's hands and fast breathing and shaking. So I'll need to know in what context that's happening. So is baby unwell? Baby is looking ill or crying and shaking her hands and breathing fast. It's a little bit difficult to actually pinpoint and say what's actually going on with little one. So if baby is otherwise looking very well and happy and laughing and moving hands and breathing fast, it's fine. But baby's crying, ill, feverish, moving hands and breathing fast, it's not so good. And you might need to see a doctor.
Yeah. I'm curious. Actually, at what month baby actually feel happy? Like they can react to what you're doing, moving around, and they'll be like, they're smiling. Because sometimes I think it may be just an expression.
Baby will start responding by the time they're about a month plus. The first few weeks, really, babies won't respond so much. But when they move on to the second month, they will be more excited by little things around them. Yeah. So then they will respond back and coo and laugh. And, there's a bit of more interactions with mom and baby.
Dr. Vidya, it's been so good to have you today. I think personally, it's been a really, really educational session. For mums like myself, we spend a lot of time researching this information out there and trying to find something that's actually legitimate, that's based on research, if we don't have access to our pediatrician at the moment. Is there anything that you could recommend, or any website or any source that would be beneficial?
Yes, I know. It's so challenging when you sort of go into Google and try to sort of, list down what you like to know. And you're just bombarded with so much, and you don't know which is real and which is something that you can rely on. So it's important which websites we go to. I'm really happy to say that actually in Malaysia, we have the Malaysian Pediatric Association has taken the initiative about 20 years ago to come up with this positive parenting. So that addresses a lot of parenting issues, a lot of pediatricians involved in this magazine, and a lot of nutritionists and other disciplines are also contributing articles. So I find that's really very helpful for the local context. There are a lot of other websites that you can look at, something like Healthline. So whenever you're Googling, it's always very important that you go to a website that is being sort of researched or, attested by either pediatricians or registered nurses, without really going to blogs or, other websites that are not so well researched.
Sabrina, do you have any links that you go to that was not mentioned by Dr. Vidya?
I too do that. Whenever I Google for answers, I always go for those websites that is well researched, rather than going to forums and other mummies giving their opinion, because it has to do with medical condition. You might want to get proper information, rather than you being misinformed. So usually I go to websites like Mayo Clinic and Healthline, like Dr. Vidya just mentioned. Better to go for legit websites so that you get proper answers.
People who are watching, do comment below and share with us, where do you go to for your baby related information? Good things are meant to be shared. So don't forget the promo code we have for you, and you'll also be in the description box. Okay, so now for the $1 million question, what is that one thing that you wish someone told you before you become a mother?
I think it's to prompt me about the crying. That's one thing that, crying is just a method of communication from the baby to your mom. And it doesn't always mean that you're doing something wrong. It's completely natural, because it's their only method of speech at the moment. And to just basically listen and learn from your baby. Because I think like any other relationship, when the baby is born, it's a new relationship, and you just need to get to know the little one and to be in tune with what he's trying to tell you.
What about you, Sabrina?
I wish people were to tell me earlier on that you need to treat a baby like a person. They have their needs, they have their wants. Of course, they communicate differently, but like us, if we don't meet our needs, we get very frustrated. So it's the same for babies. And I also wish that people around me were to tell me it's okay. It's okay if the baby cries, or it's okay for this and that to happen. It's just that it's a learning process that every one of us have to go through. So that's the two things that I wished people were to tell me before.
Wow, you have two. One for bonus. What about you, Dr. Vidya? The expert and also mother of two boys?
So like I said, I come from a different generation. So I wish at that time dads could have been more involved. So, that would have been something that maybe someone could have told my husband. You need to be more hands-on earlier. Yeah. So
not too late.
Yeah. No. He's very hands-on now. Yeah. But otherwise, I think it's just that parents sometimes don't realize that your life takes a 180-degree turn. So sometimes young mothers come and nobody told me that, my life would be upside down when the first baby arrived. I've got some few mothers who come in, really in tears and said, oh no, where's my old life? I want my old life. Yeah. So I think it's good that we should all tell mummies that, things will take a definite turn, but things get better. And, once you get used to the whole thing, you will learn to get back into some not less chaos.
What is the most satisfying thing after becoming a mother?
I think seeing them growing up is really, really rewarding. Even with all the chaos that you have to go through, especially the first few months, when you see your baby happily playing or smiling or even starting to walk or crawl, is such a rewarding process. It tells you that, okay, you're doing fine, you're doing good, you're a good mom, so everything is the way it's supposed to be.
I think for me is, just learning a lot about life and about the world from their eyes again. Because we miss so much as adults, but when you look at the world in their eyes, everything is wonderment. Even the raindrops on the window is the amazement in their eyes to see nature for the first time, to see things for the first time. So it's taught me a lot about just being a decent human being.
I think it's always coming home, especially when they're a little bit bigger, like when they were a year old or year and a half or 2-year-olds. Like I said, I'm generally away a lot. So when I come home after a hard day and maybe all down and tired, just seeing them run to you with a huge smile and eyes sparkling to just see you, it's just more than enough. It's really good. When you come home and they're there with a happy smile and they're so glad to see you, it just makes your day.
Yeah, I can see all of you light up from this question. So friends, that's all we have for you today. I hope you gain some real insight into this inevitable part of life. If you like this episode, please give us a thumbs up. That would mean a lot to us. And we will see you in the next Real Chats episode. Bye-bye.